This is Ralph for WeatherWool. This is Josh Kirk of Mountain Man TV in Lander, Wyoming, and we're on the Bison Ranch, and Josh is going to tell us about some of this equipment.
So we're going to walk through the facility here. If you watch Mountain Men season 9 through season 11, it's known as the Wind River Mountain Range. The Wind River Mountain Range is right behind us, but right now we're going to talk about the facility. So this is our working facility, Berlinic Manufacturing out of Quill Lake, Saskatoon, Canada. And this is strictly built for the bison. Very elaborate, and a shout out to Berlinic. They do awesome work. So we're gonna walk in, we're gonna crank up the hydraulics. I'm gonna show you guys how it's gonna work. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna fire this up. This thing's kind of loud. So the way this works is bison, when you bring them into a facility, you wanna work them and work them back out the same way that they come in, because if you don't, then it's going to be a conundrum. It gets hard. They want to escape the same way they come in. And so we're going to show you how this works. So Ralph, what we do is we bring them in through this out on the back alley. We've got holding pins here, and here, and then 2 really big holding pins in the back. We push them, and we use machinery to push them. We put a belt.
Let me interrupt for a second.
Yeah.
How big are these animals? How much do they weigh?
So the average bison is going to be 1,100 to 1,500 pounds. I have bulls that weigh upwards to 2,400 to 2,600 pounds.
And how do they compare behaviorally and strength-wise to typical cattle?
So they are completely, like, these bison are wild, like straight up. You're not going to mess with them. They will kill you. And strength-wise, I would say 4 to 5 times the strength of a cattle.
Wow.
Like a big bovine bull. I just lost a $10,000 bull that another bull killed.
Holy smoke.
By goring it. And when they fight to the death. Like they don't stop. So the behavior on bison, one thing you look for is the tail structure. So if the tail's down, you're fine. If the tail goes halfway,
he's getting
that's
agitated.
A threat. If it goes straight up and then you hear, they're coming after you. I've been gored twice. I've been knocked out numerous times.
Knocked out?
Knocked out. I had a 2,400 pound bull knock me completely out trying to load him on a trailer.
Well, that explains a little bit about your personality.
So it's I carry a pistol on my side, because I've had bulls get on top of me before, and I've had to shoot upwards to kill them, to get them off of me, and it doesn't kill them. And it's rugged, it's raw, and it sounds bad, but it's the truth. And when you're working wild animals, that's what you have to deal with. And so we try to make it, I guess, the best process and the easiest process that we can for them. So when we're working them, we try to keep it quiet. We try to slowly push them and bring them in. They lose caps, they lose horns. And like here, we have 20-foot sections. So when they come into this facility here, if they run more than 20 foot, they can run up to 30 miles an hour within 20 foot, and they will hit something and it'll break their neck. So you got to be really, really careful about that. Before the bison facility was finished, the power wasn't hooked up to it yet. And so I had to work them manually. And so we have a 2,400 pound bull, number 33, that comes through here. I'm pretty sure you met 33 the last time you were out here, but he just got a lot bigger. And so we're pushing them, and we back a trailer up to this alley right here. And so I jump up on the stock trailer, and 33 comes through, goes over the side of the stock trailer, hits me, knocks me off, knocks me out. My head hits a steel post over here, and I'm out for the count for, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 seconds. And it was bad. So it gets rough out here. It's like no matter what you do to try to keep them calm, when you're working them through a facility, they get wild.
Do you have any rules about nobody works them alone?
You do not get into the pen. I have to get into the pen with them and work them with a flag sometimes. But I also understand the behavior, and so you got to be really careful so I don't put anybody else at risk. I put myself at risk. So yeah, it's kind of a conundrum. With bison, I think failure has been my education. I started from scratch. We started with 225 head. They were weanlings mixed with a little bit of yearlings. And I built that up to over 800 head. And I've cut back with shipping, and we do USDA meat. If you go to fallsfamilyranches.com, fallsfamilyranchesllc.com, you can get our USDA meat.
Oh, beautiful.
We now provide meat to restaurants. We provide meat locally. We provide meat all over the country.
So you'll ship frozen?
Yes, sir.
Dynamite.
Yes, sir. And we have our own freezer set up. We go through full inspected, USDA inspected. Frank's Butcher Shop, as you guys seen on the television show, Frank's Butcher Shop does all of our
I remember he
processing.
came here to test some of it.
Correct.
You cooked some right out on the range.
Right there on it with a wood stove, right in the skillet.
I remember,
Yep. And so we still work with Frank's. They do a phenomenal job. And so, yeah, we're just going to kind of show you. I'm going to reset this. This goes out about every, 15, typically 5 minutes. But here we go. So when they come down, we'll bring them down this alley. And so these are sorting gates. And so when I'm bringing them down through here, I'll always leave this one open and this one open. I let them in. I just had a belt break on this one. So I close them in. And they come in and they hit it, and it gets crazy and loud. So I bring them through here. Figure out the ones I want over here. And you're working constantly. You're trying to separate them, and they're trying to jump out. They're banging around. Then I'll bring them through this gate. Bring them over here. And we use flags, and we get on their back ends, and we get on their heads to try to separate them and push them.
So how many bison would be in this pen right here?
So
this is what? I guess this is one of the 30-foot pens?
Correct. 20 foot.
20
foot, yeah. So when they come in, we might have 5, we might have 20 that comes in. And so then I have to sort these guys out. And then sometimes if there's too many in here, you got to be careful because they'll pile up on each other and they'll trample each other and they will kill each other inside of this. So you've got to be really careful. So most of the time, I try not to bring more than 6 or 8 at a time, because then it is like, it gets hectic, it gets bad. And so then we open that back up, we kick some back out. I use these gates to sort them. If I'm working them, if I'm loading them on a semi to ship, this is my semi loading chute here. And then I have a stock trailer loading chute just on the other side. And then if I want to turn them out in this pasture, the ones I'm keeping, then they go straight out and then in.
It sounds like you'd need a special trailer also.
You've got to have a strong trailer. And you know, we just did a semi load of 200 yearlings. Well, it's several semi loads.
Okay.
So we were putting about 70 yearlings to a trailer. And when they go in, you have to get inside the cages, inside of the actual trucks, the stock semis, to work them. And it gets really, really hairy. One of my guys, one of the drivers actually got ran over this.
Yeah, I can imagine what the workman's comp situation would be on that.
You better have good insurance, and we
so,
do.
So a yearling was born last spring.
Correct.
So they're about a year to 2 years
old.
old.
Yearlings normally about 550 to 620 pounds. We let them through here, and then we'll close them in here, open the gate. This is right here. This one's it's stuck right now because the mud's frozen, but they'll come in through here. Once we lock down, once they're in the chute, we weigh them. I have a computer that goes here. We weigh them. This is a full scale. So I can weigh them. I can record all the information on them. We tag them. We do bang vaccinations. And the head chute I was talking about, once I drop down here, this is my neck stretcher. This is pretty awesome. You got to see this. So once I've got them locked in and squeezed in, I use this to push out their horns, stretch their neck. Then I open this, and then that's when we get in with them. So now I'm going to show you guys the sorted bison that we just did last week. We've got about 100 plus yearlings in here. We have some coals. We have ones that's been injured out here, blah, blah, blah. And so right now we've got about 150 to 200 head inside of this facility. And then we're going to go out in the pasture, and that's going to be awesome. So I just installed these waters. I actually poured the concrete and also installed these water tires here. They are heated and they work on a ball valve. So we have waters here, waters on there, and then another big one in here. And these are the weanlings in here. We're gonna show you guys the weanlings. These guys right here were born last June and July.
So they nurse for that long, huh?
Yes, sir.
So they nurse all winter and they come off in the spring?
Yes, sir. So they're all spread out. These are all weanlings in here.
And why do you have them separated from the others?
So we're feeding them out
that's
on
right.
barley,
Yep,
and then we're gonna wind up shipping these guys to Colorado. So these guys are fresh. These guys are averaging, weanlings average about 350 to 475 in weight. And so we'll feed them out for 120 days plus, 120 to 160 days on barley, and then they'll be shipped out. People will buy them for replacement heifers, for replacement bulls, to build their own herds, etc. All right, so in here I have the yearlings or weanlings that we've sorted. And then in here, I've got some of my replacement bulls. So these are some of the bulls that I'm keeping. I actually have some genes that are coming out, especially this guy right here. I'm gonna see if I can't get him to turn. So this guy that's looking at us right here, this is a gene that's coming out that is prehistoric, which is known as the longhorn bison. But the longhorn bison were more out like this, the prehistorics. But we're one of the few herds that, because they are the purest genealogy that's out here. Our bison are some of the purest genealogy. But we're getting these long horns showing, which is absolutely phenomenal. These bulls, once they're mature and they're fed out, once they hit 4 years old, 4.5, some of these bulls are going to be worth anywhere from $10,000 to $40,000 a piece, because of the genes. So I'm gonna push this guy around real quick. Hey! Hey! So you can see the length.
Yeah.
You can see the length of the horns and the width. So you see a tail like this. When that tail raises, he might be taking a poop, but this is what you want to look for. They're either taking a poop or they're going to come after you. Bulls are not as dangerous as cows are. Cows with calves, that's what you got to worry about. That's what you got to worry about. And these right here, some of these we're going to keep, and then some of them we're going to let go. Most of my replacement bulls, etc., are out there. But right now we're feeding these guys barley. We're going to fatten them up a little bit. They're young. These guys are 2.5 years old, so they're young. Except for I've got two mature bulls over there. And the stress, like when you're running them through a facility, they deal with stress. And they can lose upwards to 20 to 30, 40 pounds in a day just from stress.
Wow.
Hey, hey! Which ones are mature and which ones are not, just by pushing them. And that's what I wanted to show you. These guys stand their ground. The other guys, they're like, nope. These longhorns is so special to us.
Is the meat any different?
No, meat's no different, but that gene is a prehistoric gene. The older ones that are in here are coals. They're the ones we're letting go because they're not three-dimensional. And when I say three-dimensional, like maybe his head looks good, his hump looks good, but when you look at him from the front and the side or the back, he's not exactly what we want. Even though it's a pure gene, he's not exactly what we're wanting. And then the younger guys, we're just hitting them with this barley right now just to feed them out, get them all nice and fattened up. And they're pretty stressed out right now. They just went through a lot of stress over the last 2 weeks just by working them. We've had to work the herd. We've got 426 animals right now. We've worked the herd about 6 times in the last 2 weeks. And so they're stressed out. So they lose 40 pounds a day. And so right now we're just getting them fattened back up. The ones we're going to keep, we'll cut back out in the pasture. And the ones we're not going to keep, we'll sell as replacement bulls for someone else's herd. Hey! 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 See this guy?
Yep.
See how he lifts his tail? He drops his head, lifts his tail. So he's more of a mature. This is a 4.5 to 5-year-old bull right here. And that's why he just stands his ground. So it's pretty awesome way to work. But he's also teaching these guys to stand their ground, because these guys slowly come back in, and look, they huddle up kind of towards him.
Right. It looks like he's got the biggest head.
Yeah, and he does, because of age. So as they age, their skull grows. So we have a few bulls that are going to be the next world record. People, I guess, would call it domesticated, but they're not really domesticated as far as skull and horn growth. And so they are in the next couple 2 to 3 years, some of these bulls are going to totally annihilate some of the world record bulls that are out there. And that is, for me, that's a breeding. So these guys are young, they're curious. And the more I push them, you see how they close space? Because they get a little bit more courage, a little bit more courage, a little bit more courage. And so what I do is I work them, and that's why I push them, because I want them to know, like, I'm the herd bull that's here, even though if they don't like it or not. Hey! 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 So I close space on that big one. Because he needs to know that he needs to respect me. Simple as that. He needs to respect all humans. When we're feeding him, if my ranch hands are out here and they're feeding hay, he needs to understand that before I closed his space just then. I hadn't been that far in, but I made him get back. And that is how you keep respect between the animals and yourself. As long as you keep that respect, but if you allow them to come in close while you're feeding, especially in hay in a winter storm, it might be blowing 60, 70 miles an hour out here sometimes in a winter storm, the wind. And if you allow them to come in too close, that's when you get hurt and that's when you get killed. Especially if you're hunting, like this shirt here, it's like it blends so well with a sagebrush.
Yeah, thank you.
And it's identical to sagebrush once it goes into its dormant. And it's like, hands down, the best camo for out west.
Love hearing it.
And it's quiet.
Oh yeah, that's wool.
This is freaking awesome. Hang on, let me pull up a little bit. So Ralph, we're gonna go check this out. I see our first calf of the year just on the other side of those cottonwood trees.
Little brown guy just walked behind the weeds?
Right behind his mama out there. He looks like he was probably from here. I'm assuming he's probably was born last night, maybe this morning.
Wow.
That is our first calf of the year.
Oh, it's fantastic.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
We're going to go check this guy out. So I call them little red dogies because when they're born, they're super red. But he's a little video fella.
So what do you think, what's a typical weight for a newborn?
Typically you're going to be anywhere from 55 to 65 pounds on average. If it's a big bull calf, it might weigh 70.
That's a big baby, however you slice it.
Definitely a big baby. This is cool. We just kicked these out too. That's how I know. This is the first calf. So this ranch here was the water rights here in 1886.
Wow.
And so where I built the cabin, where I put the cabin, I relocated the cabin on the back on the show where the windmill is.
He means he actually moved the building.
I actually moved the cabin on season 11. And it was original to this ranch. And I moved it back to the original homestead site for this ranch, which was 1884, 1886. But the water rights came in at 1886. So
and just for us Easterners, can you explain exactly what you mean by water rights, please?
So water rights here, it means we have the Paposia River that comes out of this Sinks Canyon. And that river, they come off with these channels and these ditches. You can see one of them way up there where that red dirt is.
Yeah.
And so the river starts elevation way up here, and then they bring in these big ditches, and this is the Gaylord Warnock ditch. And so they catch the water and they distribute so many feet of water per ranch. And so when this ranch was originally homesteaded, back then they had to come in and they had a home. They could homestead up to 680 acres, but they had to be here 6 months out of the year to make improvements. And so then they would get their water rights in. They'd get their water rights. So 1884 was when this was homesteaded, but 1886 is when they got their water rights. And I have 14 apple trees, 4 different species of apples back by the cabin, which I talked about this on the show. They're the oldest apple trees in this Fremont County, and they're 1886 apple trees, and they still produce every year.
Oh, that's beautiful. And when you say these ditches, now who dug the ditches?
So these ditches, a lot of these ditches were done by Chinese laborers.
So by hand?
By hand with mules and what we call like a what would be a proper? Trying to think of a proper term for it. There's a proper term for it, but it's basically they use mules and plow, and they use pulleys, and then the Chinese laborers come in and cleaned all it up, and then this ditch right here provides over 100 ranches with water.
Wow.
He was born in the last hour. He's an hour old. He's barely got his legs. Dude.
Beautiful.
Look, the afterbirth's still in her.
Oh, I see. Right.
Yes. Yep. Oh my gosh. First calf of the year, Wind River Mountain Range.
April 9th, 2024.
Yes, April 9th. This is less than an hour old. He doesn't even have his legs yet. Here with Ralph, with WeatherWool, get to share this. Man. Oh my Lord. What a beautiful thing.
He is beautiful.
So when you guys were getting here, Ralph, when you were getting here, he was being born.
That's amazing.
That's a sign.
Okay.
That's a sign.
I'll definitely take that sign. That's a good sign.
Like he barely got his legs. Like his navel cord just starting to dry up a little bit, barely. That's a 6.5-year-old cow. I've been here for 6.5, 7 years, give or take, and that is what I started with.
Well, congratulations.
That's pretty awesome. And so bison cows can have calves up to 15 years.
I was going to ask, that was my next question.
Yeah.
Do they ever have twins?
Absolutely. I get 2 to 3 sets of twins a year.
Out of how many cows?
Ooh, I mean, 2 to 3 sets. Like, you know, like I didn't keep up because originally when we started, hell, we didn't even have fences here. When we dropped 225 weanlings off, we didn't even have fences here.
Oh.
They went up and over the top of this mountain so many dang times. And I finally got them broke. And
Open range, Wyoming.
Shoot my gun into the ground and push them back down on a ATV. And then I finally got them broke the cake, the pellet, the big cake, you know, cake wagon. And then I could they would disappear at that point. Right there where that little tree is.
Yep.
Right at the top. So the first time I lost them, they went up and over the top of that. And I took the Jeep that you see on the show with let's say a ton is 2,250 pounds, right?
Uh-huh.
A ton of cake on a cake, like behind the Jeep, which shouldn't be pulling that.
Right.
All the way to the top. Start shaking it. Bring them all the way back down. I was like, what do you do? We didn't have no damn fences, you know?
Jeez. So how many do you think you lost because you had no fences? They just kept going. You never
No, I lost
again.
2. I know exactly what I lost. I lost 2 because I had some hunters found them.
Oh.
And that was way later. I have totaled 4 4-wheelers on this face. 4 4-wheelers. I've totaled them. Flipping them. I had 2 bulls. If you come down this way, right there, you see this red where the ditch is?
Yeah.
And you go over that hill, and then you go up, and you see there's like a juniper right in the middle over there?
Yeah, yep.
So that's some rough country right there. So I'm running them this way, and I drop off, and I have 2 bulls hit my 4-wheeler. And I come off my four-wheeler, woo, and it rolls. I'm rolling up under it. And I get pinned, and the bulls come in on the four-wheeler, and I shot one of them. I had to shoot one of them with my pistol. And I didn't break anything, but it's like 3 toes. And I broke 2 ribs on that deal.
Anybody around to see it, to help
my
you?
ranch hand. And he was scared half to death. He was just like, he was just
Well,
sitting there.
I can understand that.
But we butchered it, and we ate well that winter. It was good. All right, we're gonna go to the back. We're gonna go find Pendleton. I think he's in the back. No, we'll go back.
Can you describe the treatment of these fields? Like, how do you keep it this way? It looks very natural.
So right now we have regrowth coming in, and so we're anti-pesticide. We don't run any kind of fertilizer out here. Bison manure is absolutely amazing for the land. Their hooves are good for the land. So basically we'll come out and we'll drag these fields.
And dragging means what?
So we run a big drag that's got these chains with spikes on them. And so it, as we're dragging it, it breaks the manure and it spreads it. And so that is our natural fertilizer. So we're totally 100% regenerative out here. Also on bare ground, so we use all local hay. And so there's bare ground that's out here, like especially around these rocks that are out here. So what we'll do is we'll take a round bill. When we came here, this was bare ground, total bare ground, right on the side of these hills where the rocks are.
Oh, wow.
And so we would take round bells and roll them down the hill, and then the bison come in during the wintertime, and they're seeding that hay, and they're organically gardening.
Cool.
Feed
Beautiful.
for us. And so we have brought back grass on this ranch that hasn't been here in 80 years, 90 years in places. And so, yeah, and so it's a holistic approach. And holistic doesn't work for bison, or excuse me, it doesn't work for cattle. It's very tough to run a holistic approach on cattle because cattle stay in one place and they feed until it's totally grazed out, and then they move to another spot. Bison, they'll go 2.5 miles 2 times a day to water if they need to. They will go an average of like 5 miles a day, the herd can, just roaming. And so with bison, you can come in with a holistic approach and do this. And like, I call it organically gardening, just using their hooves. And because they're so sharp, they don't make an imprint like a cattle would. And also the molars of a bison have 7 times the grinding power than a beef cow. So they can eat Gnostic plants.
Gnostic means what?
Basically invasive species plants, like bull thistle, Canadian thistle.
No kidding.
And they can eat that, and it doesn't they can chew it up and eat it. Then it hits their stomach, and their brain is like, oh, this is good for me. And thistle is actually edible for human beings.
No kidding.
It tastes like celery, but it's got so much nutrition and protein in it. And so what I've done, instead of coming out and spraying with pesticides or herbicides and killing the thistle, I come out with an ATV and I cut down on their mineral. And I'll cut down on their mineral, and I'll come out and I'll spray the thistle with salt water, hot salt water, because hot water dissolves salt. And so I cut down on their mineral, and then they start eating those plants because they smell the mineral, and then it hits their stomach, hits their brain, and they are my herbicide without spraying and putting poison into the ground and into the creeks and into the waterways.
Well, isn't that great? Yeah, we got to get away from that.
That's my boy.
This is Pendleton?
This is Pete.
Can you tell us about Pendleton, please?
So Pendleton was the first generation, and he's not as big as the others. He's 4.5 years. Pendleton is now 4 years old, 4.5 years old. And we didn't have calves because we had to wait because we started off with weanlings. And so Pendleton was one of the first 20 calves that dropped. And we were moving the herd to another pasture, and I watched him drop from his mother's womb, and she just left him. And so I had to go over there and peel that afterbirth off of him.
Oh.
And
I remember that part.
Yeah, I waited like an hour. She never came back. Took him to the pasture where they were at. She never came back. And then the bulls came over and started flipping him up in the air. And so I've never raised a bison calf before. And he had never sucked from his mama's teat. Earlier we were talking about rumen. So when they suck on their mama's teat, they get that probiotic in the rumen, which helps them break down the feed. It builds a probiotic in their stomach. So he never got that. So I took him. I went and bought some. It was like calf milk, whatever, powdered calf milk, and he didn't do so well.
I remember. So I was here in August of 2020, and he was still. He was having trouble with digestion. You weren't sure if he was going to survive.
So the biggest thing is colostrum. When they first suck the mother's teat, they also, from the outside of the teat, they get that bacteria in their stomach, which creates a probiotic. And if they don't get the colostrum, that is the strength that they need to take on life, right? To build the rumen, to build their strength, etc. Well, he never had any of that. And so I brought him into the house. I raised him in the house, and then he got so big.
I remember he wanted to come. When I was here, he wanted to come in the house, but he was too big then.
Well, then he got bigger, and he started breaking our door in.
Oh.
And so he'd break the door in and get in the house, and then the door would get shut behind him, and he would flip over a washer, a dryer, and I've got pictures of him being in the house and laying on the couch because that's how we raised him. And I named him Pendleton after the blanket and the whiskey. And so this is P. Come here, P. So now Pendleton is he's about 1,100 pounds. Yes, he's my buddy. He's my buddy. He's my buddy. And he's a little protective. Let me see my hat. He's a little protective of me, so don't get too close at first, but I'm going to let you pet him. So Pendleton, he's a little protective. I took him into the bars. He'd go in the bars and he would drink beer, which is barley. And they had a little bowl, and I'd take him around and walk him around. And I bought a dog pouch for him at a thrift store, and I taught him to do that. And then now he's a herd bull out here. He fights and he breeds and he's doing his thing. Easy boy, easy fella, easy. I know you're getting nervous. It's all right. Hey, easy. Hey. So P is. I had him broke to ride. I had him packing. And he's just a watchdog. I took him to the rendezvous in Riverton at the Riverton rendezvous. Hey, back. He's gonna check you. He's checking you out right now. You're all right now, maybe. So I took him to the rendezvous, and there was some dogs in there, and he went after the dogs. He jumps over me, goes after the dogs because they got close to me, starts making rounds in the rendezvous. This is the original first documented rendezvous site in the U.S. in Riverton, Wyoming.
Oh, I didn't know that. From the 1830s, you mean?
At 18, it was 18,
That was the last one, the 1830s.
Yeah.
Must have been the early 18s.
It would have been late 1830s. Back. He's all right. He's all right. He's just being naughty. See, he's all right.
With him if you tell me I am.
What's that? Yeah. You just leave the door open. He just gets a little protective of me. So he runs, and he's 600 pounds, and I got him on a leash, and I let him off the leash, and he runs. And so 1838, original documented rendezvous site, the very first, every major mountain man ever in the history has been there. 1838 rendezvous site, and so there's, I don't know, 500 camps, 700 camps, and we're talking period correct antiques, right, with the guys that are selling in the trade tents. And this dude runs through one of the most expensive trade tents. We're talking stuff back to the 1700s preserved. Goes through the tent, never touches a thing, like a bull in a china shop, but never touches no china. Comes back over, jumps over me again, goes after the dog, and then comes over there and lays down beside me.
Oh.
And there was like 70, 100, 200 people witnessed it. So this is my boy right here. He's my buddy. He's my buddy. He's my buddy. Give me kisses. I want kisses. Yes, I want kisses. Yes, I do. Yes, I want kisses. So he doesn't have the growth of most of the bison because he never had his rumen built up. He also never had colostrum. I gave him bad colostrum. And so due to that, he didn't get the growth. And then I almost lost him. And the vets, I took him to vets. The vets couldn't do anything with him. And then finally, I put some castor oil through him, and it flushed his system, and it saved his life. Come on. Come on. Come on. This is a sweet spot right behind the ear. He's just like an old dog. Yes, he's a good boy. Oh, P's a good boy. He gets excited when I talk to him. He ain't no different than a dog. He's my buddy, Pendleton. He's my buddy. He's my buddy. He's the one that makes the wool for us. Yeah, he's gonna come check you a little bit closer. Yeah, it's all right. And just don't get scared. Yeah, I know it. I'm right here, buddy. He's just smelling you. He's smelling fear. He's smelling everything about you to see if you're a threat. He's all right. Good boy.
I'm not going to threaten him. That's for sure.
That is awesome.
Even just that little touch, I can feel his power.
Oh, dude, I've seen him take on bulls 3 times his size. Like, biggest thing, see him smelling? He's taking in all the scent right now. See him taking it in?
Yeah.
All right, now walk up to him. You can walk up to him. Go easy. Walk up one more step. Stop right there. He's going to ignore you for a second, then he'll reach out. Take a half more step. There he goes. It's just like reading horses, man. It's just understanding him. I know this dude like I know my own kid. Like I know my own daughter.
He's not going to go on the couch anymore.
No, no, you don't quite fit. Oh, yeah.
This was another amazing, crazy day in Lander, Wyoming with my friend Josh Kirk. I don't know where we're going to go from here, but we had a fantastic time. Bison and views and plenty of good talk and a lot of fun shooting last night. All kinds of good stuff. Thanks so much.
Man, you know, it's been a blessing. Thank you guys so much for what you guys have done for me.
WeatherWool, not at all.
Hands down, the best material you're going to go into the outdoors with. I've been in a lot of different elements, from extreme cold to blizzards to like really, really, really difficult times wearing WeatherWool. I approve of it. These guys are making an awesome product. And thank you, Ralph. But he's a down-home guy. He's a down-home guy. He shows up. We're friends.
We're friends.
We have a good time.
Yes, sir.
You know, it's like
come to New Jersey. I'll show you something different.
Mountain Man in New Jersey.
York City. It'll be good. Play some music. Let them hear some fiddling, some bluegrass, and some soul.
Well, guys, I'm Josh Kirk from History Channel's television show Mountain Men. Hands down, check out WeatherWool. Ralph, these guys, his whole family is absolutely phenomenal. Thank you guys so much for what you do. Support WeatherWool.
Thanks, Josh. This has been great. Thanks, everybody.